Here's what we're going to cover. The biggest mistake that 99% of homebuyers make and how to avoid it like the plague. How to obliterate the feeling of information overload that paralyzes many homebuyers. The one critical thing you absolutely must do before you ever begin the home buying process. Why most homebuyers are dead wrong about the right way to buy a home in today's modern world, and how they'll end up paralyzed with frustration as a result. The 3 critical elements to look for in a new home. If you get these right, you'll smile every time you pull into your driveway. But if you get these wrong, you're going to feel the crushing weight of buyer's remorse. The dirty little secret of the real estate industry that big companies use to keep you like a gerbil on a treadmill, constantly running in circles, but without any real progress. In a case study, how a relocation buyer bought a home when she had less than 8 hours on a Saturday to do so from start to finish. And that's just the beginning. I'm also going to reveal the 4 simple questions you must answer before you ever begin looking for your new home. Flashy gimmicks shrewd sellers use to try to draw you in, and how to avoid falling victim. How to lower your bid on a home while increasing your chances of getting your offer accepted. And still, that's not all. The bottom line, by the end of this presentation, you're going to have more insight and understanding into the home buying process than 90% of even the realtors out there. And I'm not joking about that. In fact, check out what Josh Cope in Florida had to say after I shared this information I have in store with you with him. He said, "Lance, I went through your presentation and all I could say is wow. I learned more about the home buying process from your short presentation than I have over the past 28 years combined. As the old saying goes, you don't know what you don't know. And that's never been more true here. Because I thought I knew exactly how to buy a home, but it turns out I was making several mistakes that would have easily cost me thousands of dollars. Luckily, I saw your presentation before I bought my next home, and now my confidence and peace of mind have skyrocketed. Thank you again, Lance. You're truly a godsend. Keep doing what you're doing." Josh Cope. And he's just one of the many that have already benefited from this powerful content. So hopefully you've got a pen and paper out and you're ready to take some notes. Because if you've seen, I've got a ton of actionable content to share with you, and I'm going to be moving fast. By the way, make sure you stay tuned all the way through the end of this broadcast, because I've got a really special bonus that I've reserved exclusively for those who attend the webinar. It's a confidential ebook from my own personal collection, and it's entitled Home Buying Tips and Advice, Saving You Thousands. It's a must-read for anybody that's looking at buying a home, and it's packed with valuable insights and money-saving strategies, like how to get a builder to warrant major components like the roof, stucco, countertops, and more for years after the original home warranty expires, even if you're not the original owner. 2 things you must know if you're buying an investment property, or you could lose everything. A little-known strategy endorsed by the National Association of Realtors that delivers a 3 to 6% higher return on your investment of your new home, and much, much more. Now, I've painstakingly compiled it through my extensive experience as a real estate agent, and you won't find it for sale anywhere at any price. But if you stay tuned all the way to the end, I'll send you a personal copy absolutely free. I want you to have it as a gift from me to you, because I know it will have a tremendous positive impact on your future as a home buyer. Does that sound good? Great. Now let's get started. Let's first talk briefly about how most people go about looking for a home. That way we can identify some problems with it, and then we'll be able to put together a far more effective game plan that you could follow to simplify the home buying process, while also making it much more fun, rewarding, and most importantly, profitable. Now, if you're like most people who are looking to buy a home, you start by doing one of 2 things. One, you pull up sites like Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com, and type in the parameters for your home you have in mind. For example, how many bedrooms, bathrooms you're built, square footage, price, etc. You then begin the painstaking process of trying to sort through all of the homes that your search return to identify the home that you're most interested in seeing. And if you already tried this approach, you know how frustrating and confusing it can be. By the way, let me let you in on a dirty secret. These sites were almost intentionally designed to be that way. I'll tell you why in just a minute. But turning to online platforms like Zillow and realtor.com are probably one of the most common approaches new home buyers take. The other approach is to hire a realtor. Now I'm using the word hire loosely here, since obviously you don't directly write a realtor a check for their services as a buyer, and a good majority of home buyers will work with almost any realtor. But this mindset leads to one of, if not the most common and costly mistakes I see potential homebuyers make. And if you're one of the ones that falls into this extremely common trap, you'll end up paying multiple thousands of dollars, sometimes even tens of thousands of dollars for your realtor's service. In fact, looking at the list of people that we have on this event right now, I'm willing to bet at least 80% of you will be in this unfortunate situation. I'm going to show you why that is in just a few minutes, and most importantly, how to make sure you avoid this extremely costly mistake. And don't worry, it's not too late to recover if you're one of the 80% of the people on this call that might have already made this mistake. But before we talk about that, let's talk a little bit about sites like Zillow and Homes.com. And I know there's countless others, but these are some of the most common. Now I mentioned earlier that one of the dirty little industry secrets is that these sites are almost intentionally designed to keep you frustrated and confused, leaving you feeling more like a gerbil on a treadmill than a potential home buyer. Now you're probably thinking, well, of course you're going to say that, you're a real estate agent. And guess what? You'd be right, but not for the reasons you think. It's not because I'd rather you come to me instead of find what you're looking for online. In fact, if you're someone who wants to do your own research online without the help of a realtor, I'll tell you about a special website exclusively for the Tampa Bay area that will allow you to do that just here in a second. One of the main problems I have with sites like Zillow and other ones like them as a real estate agent are actually the realtors. Yes, realtors. They've ruined these sites, and here's how. It's common practice for an agent to list homes for sale on these sites. No surprise, right? But what happens when the home sells or goes under contract? If you're like most people, you'll probably assume they're automatically removed from the search results. But you'd be wrong. In fact, I personally know an agent who input over 1,000 listings on one of these sites. And when they sold, he never took them down. Why? Because people would still call about them. And he would then say something like, wow, I'm sorry, it looks like that house sold, but I know of another one just like that would be perfect for you. In other words, he simply used it as a lead generation tool. And that's frustrating for you, to say the least, because he certainly wasn't the only one using these strategies. And if you're anything like me, when I was looking to buy a home, the last thing you want to be is a pawn in some twisted money-making scheme. But at the end of the day, these websites are allowing all this outdated and inaccurate information. So you might be wondering, well, why do they do that? Don't they want me to have accurate information and have a good experience and come back to their website? Well, the answer would surprisingly be no. Most of these sites are nothing more than data mining and marketing companies. They want you to fill out a form and then they just sell your information. So the problem with sites like Zillow is that a certain percentage of the homes that you're finding on the site are actually unavailable. Some have sold, some are under contract, some have been simply taken off the market. But since you have no way of knowing that just by looking at them, you potentially spend tons of your precious time researching and reviewing homes that are simply unavailable for whatever reason. Which is exactly why you may be feeling like a gerbil on a treadmill right now if you use these sites. But the good thing is there's a solution that will allow you to get off these frustrating merry-go-round sites while still allowing you to research potential homes online that are only actively for sale. You see, after discovering the frustration and pains that sites like Zillow were creating for potential homebuyers like you, I decided to develop a solution. The solution allows you to sit in the comfort of your home and quickly and accurately research homes that are available in the area without dealing with the sleazy gimmicks that are so prevalent on sites like Zillow. It's called Tampa2Enjoy.com, and it's absolutely free. This is it right here. And let me just put it this way. This website is your prince among used car salesmen. Here's why. You see this little button that says property search? This allows you to actually search for just active homes. Or if you want, you could opt to get results that include homes that are currently under contract. But that option is completely up to you. But regardless of which option you choose, you instantly have a clear picture of what's available to you right now, or what the status is at this present moment. No gimmicks, no tricks, and that's why I call it your prince among used car salesmen. That's only the beginning. You see, your dream home is more than just stats on a piece of paper. You're looking for a home where you and your loved ones can share your lives together. The kind of home that makes you smile every time you pull into the driveway, walk up to the front door, or spend a gorgeous afternoon barbecuing on your back porch with your friends. And to experience that kind of magic, that kind of contentment, there's more than just the number of bedrooms and bathrooms to consider. What about location? Is crime a problem? Or for those of you who are expecting kids or have kids, what about school reports? These are some of the most important things you need to consider, and so I've spent hundreds of hours putting together an absolute treasure chest of information on the area so you could zero into your perfect home with a laser beam accuracy. Because look, if you're on this webinar right now and you're looking to relocate from out of town or even out of state, you're basically feeling like a lost ball in high grass. You're blind. You're relying on a lot of luck to find the home that's truly perfect for you. And until now, your only option was to spend dozens of hours on city forums, opinion boards, and other highly unrelated sites. Now, I don't know about you, but I think it's dangerous to leave the biggest purchase of your entire life to luck, or even worse, what someone says on a forum or an opinion site when you have absolutely no idea who that person is, what their motives are, or even if what they're saying is accurate. That's what makes Tampa 2 Enjoy such a valuable asset to you. It's like having your own personal army, giving you a boots-on-the-ground assessment that you could comfortably rely on to deliver the critical information you need to make the best decision possible. And like I said, it's absolutely free, but that's not all. There's also a wealth of information on tons of topics ranging from what are CDD fees to cashing in on bank-owned properties, and even monthly statistics that will keep you in the know on the local real estate market. And that's my favorite, by the way. Let's say you're looking to buy a home 9 months from now or even 2 years from now, and you're curious about the market, but you don't want to contact an agent because you don't want to be bugged to death in the foreseeable future. Well, I've got you covered. Simply sign up for my unique listings by email service, and I'll conveniently deliver the most accurate, updated information on homes that you're interested in straight to your inbox. No obligation, no commitment, and no hassle. So the bottom line is, regardless of where you are in the home buying journey right now, Tampa2Enjoy.com is truly a one-stop solution for everything you need to find and purchase your dream home. Use it, benefit from it. That's why I put an absolute labor of love into creating it for home buyers just like you. Best of all, regardless of where you are in the home buying process right now, I'm always just a mouse click away. Feel free to send any questions you have and I'll be happy to answer them. That way, you could rest assured that you have a knowledgeable expert in your corner, serving as your personal guide that will steer you through the home buying process with unprecedented ease and accuracy, which frankly is how it should be. As I mentioned before, enlisting the help of a realtor to guide you through the home buying process is either one of the most profitable or one of the costliest decisions you'll ever make. Now, if that seems a bit extreme to you, let me ask you a question that I think will perfectly illustrate the point. If you were charged with a crime you didn't commit, and you were facing years behind prison bars, How would you go about hiring an attorney to defend you? Would you hire a brand new attorney who had very little experience? Would you hire an attorney that was obviously only interested in how much money he or she can make from the case? Or would you do your due diligence and find an attorney that had years of experience, who had tried hundreds of cases and had a proven track record of winning? Now, let me throw this into the mix. You don't have to pay a dime for whatever attorney you decide to hire. Now, without a second of hesitation, I could tell you every single person on this webinar right now, without a question, would hire the most experienced and the most respected attorney you could possibly find. And guess what? Choosing a real estate agent to work with is no different. After all, you're trusting them with one of the largest purchases of your life. And you're trusting them to find the perfect place for you and your loved ones to experience your lives together. So I'm always consistently shocked to see how little effort prospective homebuyers put into researching the agent they're going to be putting so much time and trust in. I repeatedly work with clients who have horror story after horror story from past agents they've worked with. And don't let that be you. All of the pain, all of the frustration can be so easily avoided if you simply do a little bit of homework on the front end. Because if you choose the right agent, everything else is going to fall into place. And I do mean everything. From securing the best loan terms, to actually finding the perfect home, to putting in a contract, to hiring an inspector, and even when it comes to moving in. So even though you aren't going to be actually writing a check to an agent, you should never make the unbelievable costly mistake to using that as an excuse to skipping out on doing your homework before you agree to work with them. Especially since by homework, I simply mean a few simple things that you could do to give yourself total peace of mind that you're working with the most qualified and knowledgeable person possible. In fact, let me quickly outline some of these simple things you could do to rest assured you're not dropping the ball here. And then we'll move on to my proven step-by-step process for finding your dream home in as little as 24 hours. Because look, at the end of the day as a home buyer, the only cost you have when it comes to working with an agent is if you get this wrong and work with someone who doesn't truly know the industry inside and out, and who doesn't have a proven track record of raving fans that they've worked with in the past. Now, prospective home buyers will feel like finding the right agent is more luck than science, but thanks to this webinar, that's not going to be you. So make sure you pay particularly close attention to this. Now, it starts with understanding the unfortunate reality of the real estate industry. And that's the process of becoming an agent is hardly a difficult one. And that was never more apparent than in the big real estate boom years ago. The real estate market was so hot, everybody who could fog up a mirror just became an agent. And now we're seeing it all over again. And for those that aren't lucky enough to be in this webinar and learn the truth, they'll be easily lured into a false sense of security. Why? Because they fail to recognize that there's a stark difference between a certified agent and a qualified agent. To be clear, every agent is certified. This simply means they went to the state, passed a test that had nothing to do with real estate. But a qualified agent is someone who has not only been certified by the state, but also has invested years of their life to become a true expert on more than just rules of buying a home. And this is why I say it's so simple to identify the best agent to work with. Because someone who's truly qualified as an agent will be readily apparent. One of the easiest ways is to visit their website. Is their site filled with helpful information, for example, like step-by-step breakdown of each area of town so you could zero in on the specific location that's perfect for you? Or is it a cookie-cutter website that simply promotes you to search, and more search? And if you're not sure the difference, use my website, Tampa to Enjoy, as a comparison tool. Within 10 seconds of visiting my website, you'll notice that it stands head and shoulders above what you get from other agents. Because I've put hundreds of hours in compiling the most informative content for you to use to streamline your home buying experience and gain a totally unfair advantage over others that are stuck working with the simply certified agent who really has nothing to offer you. Because the option to search for listings on your own and then line up showings based on your hard work is just a joke. Now, I don't know about you, but that just makes no sense to me. Don't these agents know that there's more to buying a home of your dreams than just stats in a search field, than how many bedrooms or bathrooms or garage spaces it has? That's why working with a qualified agent makes a difference. Let me give you a quick example. Here's a home I sold a few years ago to one of my clients, Donna and Kit. Donna gave me a call and said, "Lance, we're looking for a home. We want to be in the city, but we've been looking for a year and a half without any luck." I said, "Sure, swing by my office and let's talk for a little bit about exactly what you're looking for." So she came in, we sat down in my office, and a few minutes into the conversation, I discovered she'd been working with one of her friends, who is a seasoned agent in the area. By the way, this is a hugely common mistake. Look, my friends, it's wonderful to support your friends and family and give your business to those you already know. But buying a home is one of the biggest decisions of your life. You just can't trust that decision to anybody, even if they're your friend or family member. This is business. You've got to do your homework and make sure the person you decide to work with is really qualified, not simply certified, as we talked about a few minutes ago. This was a difficult lesson that Donna and her husband unfortunately had to learn the hard way. I always ask my clients tons of questions so I could really get into their mindset and put myself in their shoes. I work with all my clients this way as if I were buying a home for myself and my family. Because as a homeowner myself, I know what it feels like to pull into the driveway and instantly feel like I'm home. And I know how much joy I get from all the memories I've made with my family in our home. It's truly priceless, and helping countless others experience those same feelings over the years by helping them find their own dream home is what keeps me in the industry. In fact, that's why I'm taking time out of my day right now to share what I know with you in this webinar, even though we've never met before. So I asked Donna tons of questions so I could get some real clarity on what she was looking for. And I quickly discovered that her husband, Kit, was a chef. They owned a wonderful Italian restaurant, and one of Kit's dreams was to have a really large kitchen where he could give demonstrations and even hold some cooking classes for aspiring chefs. Now, I'm no expert as a cook by any means, just ask my wife, but when it comes to appliances, if it's not gas, that will not be acceptable to a chef. They have to have a gas stove and gas appliances. So I asked her, have a lot of homes you've been looking at had electrical appliances in the kitchen? And she said, well, yes, almost all of them have. And I knew that would be a big hang-up for Kit. Now, when I started in the industry, I probably wouldn't have been surprised that the agent they've been working with for the past 18 months was repeatedly dragging them to see homes that have electric appliances in the kitchen. But obviously, that was not their vision of their dream home. But after working with literally thousands of buyers, I've learned that's a very common mistake. And it's a major factor why a lot of people end up totally overwhelmed by the home buying experience, or so frustrated that they end up settling on something that's less than ideal for them. Luckily, Donna and her husband refused to settle, and instead they came to me, because I immediately went to work sending out feelers to several of my contacts in the area. And within one day, I lined up a builder I knew in the area who had agreed to modify one of their homes that already met every other requirement Donna and Kit had identified. They agreed to extend the kitchen by 7 feet and install a 5-burner stove in the middle with a downdraft that led outside, which was Kit's dream kitchen. So to make a long story short, within a few hours of working together, we had accomplished something that she was unable to do for over 18 months with her friend. All because I took the time to ask questions and really get to know them, really put myself in their shoes. And not just ask questions, but I went to bat for them by leveraging my extensive list of contacts that I've developed in the area over the last several years. That's what a truly qualified agent does. Look, if you go to a doctor, you expect the doctor to ask you a bunch of questions and get to know you, right? Well, of course you do. You expect them to review your medical history and then use their extensive experience to find the best solution to whatever's ailing you. That's what makes them qualified. If you went to a doctor instead, and they simply sat you down at their desk so you could go through their medical reference books until you were able to diagnose yourself, you'd never put up with this, would you? Of course you wouldn't, even if they were technically certified as a doctor. So it's always shocking to me to see prospective home buyers tolerate this type of service from real estate agents. So the bottom line, a qualified agent spends the time to really get to know you before using their extensive contract list and experience to find the perfect home for you and your loved ones, exactly like what I did for Don and Kit and countless other buyers. While a certified agent is nothing more than a glorified taxi cab driver and a search tool. And if you're thinking that's harsh, I'm willing to bet you never experienced the difference of working with a truly qualified agent and how much of a difference it can make in your overall happiness and peace of mind when it comes to buying your home. So when people ask me, what's the #1 secret for buying a home? My answer is always the same. Find the most qualified agent you can by doing your homework, just like what I shared with you. Because working with a truly qualified agent allows you to instantly get the same level of knowledge, experience, and insider contacts that they've likely spent years upon years developing. Most importantly, a great agent will take care of all the important behind-the-scenes steps so you could focus your full attention on the most important part, deciding which home is perfect for you and your family. Now, in order to do that, you first have to clearly define the basic features you're looking for in a new home. At the end of the day, buying a home is simply a process of elimination. So we're going to go over 4 questions that you can ask yourself to quickly narrow your search to a manageable size. Then I'm going to share the 3 critical elements that you want to look for in the remaining group of homes to quickly identify which home is a perfect fit for you. Best of all, when you combine this powerful 2-step process, you could zero in on the home that's perfect for you in just a few hours, rather than spending weeks or even months aimlessly searching and hoping you get lucky. Amateurs think luck has something to do with it, but the happiest and most satisfied home buyers know it's a science. And here's what I mean. It starts with step 1, which consists of 4 simple questions. Question 1, do you like the specific location? In other words, do you like the city and neighborhood that the home's located in? Before you got in this webinar, I sent you a link to an entire section of my website where I break down some of the most in-demand areas in Tampa Bay. The location that you ultimately decide is perfect for you will be based on a variety of different factors. Do you have kids? Where are you going to be working? Do you enjoy the club or bar scene? Do you want to be close to shopping? Do you want to be near the beach? And that's just a few. Now, I realize that for the majority of you here in this event, where you ultimately decide to live will be primarily dictated by its proximity to work. But you may be surprised to find that even within a small area, the feel could be very, very different. And this isn't something you're going to be able to change. You can't just pick up your home and place it 3 miles down the road in a better school district. So if you haven't already, take time to watch those videos on my website, tampa2enjoy.com. And let me break down each area for you so you can have total peace of mind about whatever specific area or areas you decide you want to live in. By the way, it's okay if you decide on more than one area. When I'm working with the buyer, sometimes they might say, well, my favorite area is Wesley Chapel, my second favorite area is New Tampa, and my third favorite area is South Tampa. So my point is, if you find an area that you like, or areas, that's okay, because Tampa Bay is a pretty big area, so watching all the videos will help you narrow everything down considerably. And if you're still unsure after watching those videos, don't hesitate to give me a call or shoot me an email. Now, question number 2. What is the minimum amount of square footage? At first glance, this might seem like a simple question, but you need to know what is your absolute non-negotiable minimum amount of square footage. When I work with a client, I'll ask them, what's your minimum amount of square footage that you'd like? And they might say 2,500 square feet. So I'll say, well, if you found a home in the perfect area at the perfect price and it was 24.99 square feet, would you buy it? And they'll say, well, sure. I'll say, okay, well, what's your minimum square footage? I'll say, well, minimum's about 2,200 square feet. And I say, okay, if you found the perfect home in the perfect area at the perfect price and it was 2,155 square feet, would you buy it? In other words, you need to know what is your minimum amount of square footage, or you're going to feel like that gerbil on the treadmill. You're going to be spending your time looking at homes over 2,500 square feet, where your perfect home for you and your family might actually be 2,450 square feet. Question number 3, what is the maximum age you would be comfortable with for your home? And this could be a little tricky. A lot of potential buyers are unaware of the difference in home ages between the decades. Let me give you an example. A lot of times someone might say, I want to live in a home and I'm not really too concerned about the age. It could be from the 70s to all the way to brand new. So let me give you a couple breakdowns. In the 1960s and the 1970s, if you look at homes, the lots were relatively large, because keep in mind, the lot and the land is the value, the home's the commodity. So the lots were large, but they just looked a lot different. They were very plain outside. A lot of them didn't have a lot of roof pitch to them. They just looked very cookie cutter. When you walked inside of the homes, a lot of the ceilings were very low, maybe 8.5, 9-foot ceilings. They were acoustic, which is the popcorn type of ceilings. The kitchens were generally very small. You had a big family room, you had big secondary bedrooms, you had a big garage, and of course a big yard. The master bedroom and the master bedroom suite were a little small. So they were a little bit different when you go into the 80s. When you start looking at homes in the 80s, the lot size was still pretty big, but you started noticing a shift. The elevation, the way the homes looked outside, they were a little bit more attractive. The roof pitch got a little higher, and when you walked in the home in a lot of the impact areas, you're going to see higher ceilings. You're going to go from maybe 8.5 to 9-foot ceilings up to maybe 11 feet because it's vaulting. Now inside, as far as the kitchen's still small, the master suite's still small, the secondary bedrooms, the family rooms are still real big, but you just started noticing a shift. And technology started getting a little bit better. And then when you go into the 90s, everything really changed, and it was how people started living in the 90s and into the 2000s. You started looking at the elevations were much different. The roof pitches were higher. There were more gables and a lot more attention to detail outside, but the lots started to get smaller. And when you walked inside the home, you're noticing higher ceilings, maybe 10-foot ceilings, 11, 12, even as high as 14-foot ceilings, depending on the price range you're in. And they started living a little bit better. People started saying, well, I want my areas that are big. I want it to be the kitchen because I spend a lot of time in the kitchen. I want it to be my master suite. We want it to be the family room. And the secondary bedrooms started getting smaller. The garage started getting smaller. The lot started getting smaller. And then, of course, as you continued through the 90s and into the 2000s, technology took place. When you were in the 90s, they started coming up with a lot better window designs and technologies. They started to do a lot of foam sealing around electrical outlets, around windows, around doors. And then when you get into the 2000s, you have the whole green technology thing. So there's a lot of difference between decades, and you really need to keep that in mind. Because when you're looking at a year built of the home, it's just not the price of the home, but a lot of it's the maintenance cost and the utility cost. And a lot of people don't always think about that, which leads me to the final one. Question number 4. What is your maximum price? Just like with square footage, your maximum price you decide should be your walk-away number. So I'll ask someone, what's your price? And they'll say, well, I'd like to go from $280 to $350. And I'll say, okay, well, so if you found the perfect home in the perfect area with the perfect everything, and it was $351, would you buy it? Well, yes. I'll say, okay, what's your top that you'd like to go? Well, $360. Okay, it was a perfect home in the perfect area for everything, and you loved it. Would you buy it if it was $365? Yes. And I'm not trying to talk people up in price, because I don't really care if someone wants to buy a lower end home or an upper end home. It's just what tends to happen if you're really focused on what you're looking for, and you say, I want to be maybe $280 to $350, and if the perfect home is out there and it's $352, you're not going to know it exists, and you might stretch your criteria up to $375, but then maybe that home sold the day before. So you need to really look at these different questions and really expand your criteria, because it's all about expanding and then contracting. If you do this process of elimination correctly, you could literally save weeks, if not months, in the home buying process. No matter what price range you're in, the one thing you need to do is you have to get pre-approved for a loan before you start looking. Now, I'm not talking pre-qualified, I'm talking pre-approved, and here's why. When you're pre-approved, you're essentially a cash buyer, and a seller you're going to be working with is only going to have three basic questions. How much money are you going to give me for my home? When do you want to close on my home? And can you actually buy my home? That's it. So if you could show them that you're already approved, it's like turning a loan process into a cash process, and it will give you valuable leverage to the seller. Now, I've got several other strategies I want to share with you to help you get even more leverage over sellers, but we'll get to those in a little bit. Bottom line is, without question, you want to be pre-approved for the maximum price you're willing to spend in a home before you start making contact with a seller. I work with both buyers and sellers, and when I'm working with a seller, it's always surprising to me when someone begins negotiation with my client when they're only pre-qualified. It substantially weakens your leverage as a buyer, and you could ultimately end up paying more for a home than you would if you had been pre-approved. So don't put yourself in that position. You're going to have to get pre-approved sooner than later, so you might as well get it done sooner than later. Plus, the National Association of Realtors shows in study after study you can negotiate a 3 to a 6% better purchase price if you're a pre-approved buyer over a pre-qualified buyer. Okay, so now let's talk about the 3 things you must like or don't buy the home. This is where the magic happens, but it's also where a lot of home buyers get a little nervous, which is totally normal, especially if you're looking at buying your first home. But you can quickly reduce, if not totally eliminate, these jitters by following this 3-step process that I'm about to share with you. Best of all, you could use this simple 3-step criteria to have total peace of mind, knowing that every time you pull into your driveway, you're going to have that smile on your face, right? The smile that comes knowing no matter what you experience throughout the day or what you may face tomorrow, you're finally home. And for now, nothing else matters, and nothing beats that, correct? Now, when I share these 3 critical elements with my clients, sometimes they look at me like I'm a little crazy until they put it into action themselves and experience the results. You see, the reason what I'm about to share with you is such a bulletproof process is because it forces you to focus on the elements of the home that matter the most. So just like the guardrails on the side of a windy road, this 3-step criteria is going to keep you firmly on the right path and focused on what's most important about the home without going off the side of the cliff because you're too distracted by the scenery, such as flashy amenities or other shrewd gimmicks many sellers employ to try to draw you in. And I'll tell you more about this and how you could gain a totally unfair advantage during the final negotiations in just a second. But first, let's go over this 3-step criteria so you can quickly zero in on your perfect home in as little as 24 hours while enjoying the total confidence that you can make the best decision. Because the reality is, by the time you're at this stage, you already know about the asking price, the square footage, the year built, the bedroom count, the bathroom count, and everything about the home, right? Great. Criteria 1. You must like the neighborhood. During the initial selection phase, you identify the general area or areas you want to live in. Now it's time to get more specific. Do you like the actual neighborhood where the home's located? I know it seems obvious, but if you don't like it, don't buy the house, period. You can't change your neighbors. Don't try to minimize the importance of this because you're so mesmerized by the home itself. You can't change the neighborhood where the home's located. So if you don't like it, don't buy it. And along these same lines, make sure you or your agent look into the zoning restrictions and the outlying areas, especially if the house backs up to a vacant lot. This is critically important because I've worked with sellers whose home values plummeted because they didn't call the zoning department about a vacant lot behind them, and the next thing you knew, a fire station, or even worse, an apartment complex plopped up behind them. So don't make this mistake. Do your due diligence. Because the last thing you want to be thinking 6 months after you move in is, boy, if only this house was in that neighborhood over there. Don't compromise and don't get swept up into the excitement of buying a home. Stay focused and be ruthless. And that applies to all 3 criteria I'm going to share with you. This is a surefire way to avoid dealing with buyer's remorse. So criteria 1, do you like the neighborhood? Criteria 2, do you like the elevation? Now, I'm not talking about the grass outside or the color of the home. I'm not talking about the unchangeable aspect of the interior, the elevation. In other words, do you like the way the home looks? Do you like the pitch of the roof or the numbers of gables? Do you like the way the home looks? If you don't like it, don't buy it. Earlier, we talked about the changing aspects of homes through the decades. This is your final check to make sure you're comfortable with the look and the feel. Perhaps you were okay with homes that were built in the 70s, but when you drive up to a particular home, you discover it just looks too dated for your liking. Move on. Don't waste your time going inside. In fact, I always tell my clients to do a drive-by of the homes before going in and seeing the home. Because if you don't like the neighborhood, just don't go look at the home. Period. Criteria number 3. Do you like the floor plan? This is the 3rd and final criteria that you want to use to judge a home before making the final pick. Because at this point, you already know everything about the home. The area where it's located, the neighborhood, the lot it's situated on, the exterior features, the bedroom count, the bathroom count, the price, the year built, if it has homeowners associations or CDDs, pretty much everything but the floor plan. Now notice how I said floor plan. I didn't say the color of the bedroom walls or the cabinets or the carpet. All those could be changed, and you could factor that into your bid you submit to the seller if you love everything else. Because chances are, if you love the floor plan, but the kitchen feels dated, other prospective buyers feel the same way. So it's more than likely the seller knows this too, and will be willing to negotiate more in the price. And that's good for you, because you could take the money you save on the home and use it to hire a contractor to put in a custom kitchen based exclusively on your design. And there's no better way to get the perfect kitchen in your home than that. And the same applies to the color of the walls, the carpet, the bathroom, and everything else. Now if you're thinking, Lance, I'm already stressed out with everything I'm trying to handle just to get moved in. The last thing I want to do is deal with a bunch of contractors in construction. This is a common concern by those who have never worked with a truly qualified agent. Because guess what? If I have a client who buys a home and immediately wants to make changes because I was able to help them secure the home at a reduced price, they have full access to my personal Rolodex of contractors, suppliers, and design experts that I have carefully vetted over the years. which means you could rest assured you will avoid the horror stories you might have heard from other buyers who have tried to turn right around and do remodeling before moving into their new homes. And every time I hear of one of these horror stories, my first thought is always, where in the heck was their agent? Because for me, the service I offer to my clients doesn't end when you close in your home. I have built a long-term and lasting relationships with many of my clients as a result of this attitude, and you could hear what they have to say and their experiences on my website, tampa2enjoy.com. Now, in addition to the floor plan, there's something else I want you to be mindful of when you're looking at homes. You see, a common tactic used by serious sellers who are looking to maximize their profits is to hire someone to professionally stage the home. Don't let that distract you. Imagine the property is empty. Do you still like it? Don't let $1,000 in custom paint lead you to paying $5,000 or even $10,000 more for a home, only to find out the colors you love so much when you first saw the home doesn't match your furniture, so you have to repaint it anyhow. And don't put your primary focus on things like overgrown grass or shrubs or outdated fixtures or weird paint colors or ugly furniture, and the list goes on and on. These things could all be changed. Focus on the things that can't be changed. Bottom line, focus almost exclusively on the actual floor plan and judge that alone. So to review, the 3 criteria you want to focus on is number 1, do you like the neighborhood? Number 2, do you like the elevation? Number 3, do you like the floor plan? Look, everything else could be changed. If you like these 3 things, you found your perfect home, period. If you just focus your attention on these 3 areas, you're going to feel a huge weight has been lifted off your shoulders, and you're going to feel a renewed energy because you've eliminated all the distractions that could leave you feeling overwhelmed and frustrated. Don't overcomplicate the home buying process. It's really that easy. If you're already to the point where you're overwhelmed and frustrated, take a step back. Take a deep breath. Maybe put things on hold for a week or 2. Also, make sure the realtor you're working with is willing to be brutally honest with you, especially if it's something you may not want to hear, but something you need to hear. Because at this point, a lot of agents are seeing dollar signs, and they won't tell you anything if they think it's going to jeopardize the deal. But you need to be confident that the agent you're working with will put your needs above their own needs. And that's easy for an agent to give you lip service on, but it's far different when their commission is on the line. But that's when it counts the most. Let me give you a quick example of what I mean, and how I had to be brutally honest with one of my clients, even though I knew it would shut down the deal. And this is far from an isolated incident. I had a couple a few years ago that was buying a home, and they wanted to write a contract on the spot. But the problem was the home was backing up to a major highway, and I wanted to make sure that this was the home for them because I felt the noise might be a little loud. So I told them, look, Bobby and Danielle, before you buy the home, do me a favor. Come out at 8 o'clock at night, pull up in front of the home, get out, and just listen. Things are a lot different in the evening when you don't have all the background noise. Give me a call tomorrow morning and let me know if you still want to buy the home. So Bobby ends up calling me at 8 o'clock in the morning. And he said, heck no, we don't want to buy the home. I can't believe it. We got out of the car and the traffic noise was really bad on the highway. And then an 18-wheeler downshifted and the whole home and the street started to vibrate. See, you've got to pick someone who's going to be honest with you, who's looking out for you, and they have to be knowledgeable. You have to get someone who knows what they're doing. They've had to do this hundreds, if not thousands of times, because there's nothing more important than knowledge and honesty and experience and someone who's looking out for you. And of course you have to know it's just not the knowledge, because they could read all the books in the world, but if they haven't worked with hundreds or thousands of clients before, they're not going to know what they're doing. And of course everybody has to start somewhere, but if they're not experienced, just move on. Bottom line, work with an agent that will be unquestionably honest with you no matter what it costs them personally. Because do you think clients that I have saved from buying a home that would have hated the home within a couple weeks are loyal to me? You bet. Do you think they have gone on to tell everybody they know about me as a real estate agent? Of course. So I may have lost that one deal, but I gained the respect and confidence that inspired a host of other buyers to pursue their dream through the referrals from this one client. So keep in mind, this is about you. Never tolerate an agent that doesn't treat you this way, because when it comes down to it, finding your dream home can be as fast or as slow as you feel comfortable. Never feel rushed. And certainly don't let anybody pressure you into a decision. Buying a home is one of the biggest purchases of your life, and you should have total confidence and peace of mind with your decision, no matter how long it takes. But by following this simplified approach and working with an agent that you know will be honest with you no matter what, will drastically reduce the effort it takes to find your dream home, all without sacrificing any peace of mind. In fact, by following this simple approach, you can gain peace of mind by focusing on the most important aspects of buying a home. Let me share another case study with you of one of my clients who followed the exact advice I'm giving you and see if it works for them. Several years ago when I lived in Dallas, I got a call from a gentleman, Robert. He called me on a Saturday and at 9 o'clock in the morning and said his fiancée is relocating here, was in town and had to buy a home by 5 o'clock that evening. And I said, well, how long has Kay been in town? And he said, well, she's been in town for 4 days. And I said, well, why didn't you guys call me 4 days ago instead of calling me the day she needs to find a home? I was just asking him questions. He said, well, what happened is we were working with another agent the last 4 days, but we couldn't find anything. And, we wanted to see if you could help us out. I said, that's fine. It's 9 o'clock right now. If you guys do exactly what I tell you to do, you'll be able to get into a home, but you have to listen to me every step of the way. He agreed. They came into my office at 9:30. I sat down with them for about half an hour asking a bunch of questions. Now, the good thing, they already narrowed the area where they were looking at, which was Plano, Texas. Now, Plano's a very big area, about 220,000 people. So what we did is we went through everything and we basically took the whole market. We went from about 150 homes down to 50, down to 30. And I said, take this list of 30 homes, go out to breakfast, and when you're at breakfast, look through and put them in a stack, yay or nay. I said, you'll probably wind up with somewhere in the area of maybe 12 or 15 homes out of that. And he said, well, aren't we going to go look for the home? And I said, no, we need to do this. Just trust me. I know what I'm doing. He said, okay. So him and Kay went out to breakfast at about 10:30. He called me up and he said, well, we narrowed it down. We found 14 homes we liked. We want to go see them. And I said, great. I said, go ahead and take all 14 of those homes and just drive by them. This isn't going to take very much time. It might take an hour and a half to do that. It's 10:30 right now. I said, because you're going to eliminate a lot of those homes right now. This is process of elimination. And he said, okay, so they agreed to do that. A lot of these homes were in the same subdivision as well. So they did that. At about 12 o'clock, he called me up and he said, well, we've actually narrowed it down to 5 properties. I said, great, come back to the office and then we'll take one car, we'll go look at the homes. So they got back to my office at 12:30. We went and looked at all the homes. The very first home we walked in, Kay and Robert looked at each other and they both said, this is it. This is the home we want to buy. So we looked all around the home and I said, I tell you what, we still have 4 other properties. I don't want you to have buyer's remorse. I don't want you to go back and second guess yourself. Let's go look at the other properties. They said, oh, we don't need to. And I said, just make me happy. Let's go look at the other 4 homes. So they said, okay. We got in the car, looked at all the 4 homes. They still liked the first one the best. So we went over to the home. I wrote the contract on the kitchen table. Ended up going back to my office, and by this time it was about 2:30. Went back to my office, submitted it to the other agent. Before she got on her plane, I had an offer accepted from the seller on the home. So from start to finish, he called me at 9 o'clock in the morning in a town of 220,000 people, huge area in the Dallas DFW area of Plano. They found the home they wanted. Now, a lot of agents, after they looked at the first home, would have been, great, let's just write the contract. But I wanted to go over and above. I wanted to make sure that they had everything they need. I didn't want them to have buyer's remorse. And I know by doing this, this works. This is exactly how my wife and I bought the home we live in. I went home and I talked to my wife one day and I said, hey, we're going to go buy a home tomorrow. And she said, great. So we went through all the homes, and she had a whole bunch of homes saved because she was looking online and on the MLS for a long time by herself. And I said, here's what we're going to do. We know where we want to live. Here's the criteria, and we came up with about 30 homes. We narrowed those 30 down to 15. Then out of those 15, we got up the next morning. We drove around all 15 homes. We narrowed those 15 down to 5 homes. We walked in. The third home we walked in, we both looked at each other and said, this is it. We looked at the other 2 homes, ended up writing a contract. We were done within 6 hours, start to finish. The reason is because this system works. You have to have a game plan when looking for a home, and this is why a lot of people end up feeling like a gerbil on a treadmill, because they just keep on going around and around and around. They have no game plan. So that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this webinar. You need to have a game plan. Now, I know we've covered a ton of ground so far, and I hope you've gotten a lot out of it. And I have no doubt if you follow the advice I've given you, you'll feel a renewed sense of confidence in a direction that will make your life a lot easier and your home buying experience one of the most memorable and rewarding journeys of your life. But I still have a few more insider tips and strategies that I want to share with you. These strategies include some of my best kept secrets I normally reserve for my personal clients, but I want to share them with you here for the first time because I know they will give you a totally unfair advantage, especially when there are multiple buyers wanting to buy your home. The big thing to understand here is that buying a home is a zero-sum game. It's winner take all. I don't mean for that to come across as too cutthroat, but it's true. If you find the perfect home, either you get it or someone else will. So if you simply do things a little bit different and follow the few simple strategies I'm about to share with you, you could gain a huge advantage over other buyers who quite honestly are your competition. After all, if you love the home, someone else probably does too. And this will give you the confidence that you are going to hear the words, congratulations, you got the home, instead of hearing that someone else will be living in your dream home. So let's talk about the 4 ways to crush the competition. Now, the first thing you want to make sure is your agent personally presents your offer to the listing agent. I do this for all my clients without exception. I know that sounds pretty weird, but probably 50 to 60% of all agents do not personally present their client's offer to the listing agent. They just send it over via email and hope the listing agent actually receives it and takes it to the seller. And this is a huge risk because in today's fast-paced world, it's not uncommon for the listing agent to miss the email or for the email to wind up in their junk folder. As I've said before, I work with both buyers and sellers, and it never ceases to amaze me when I'm working for a seller and the other agent calls me to ask if I received their client's offer 2 to 3 days after they send it over. And on more than one occasion, I never saw the offer, and the house ended up going under contract the night before. If the buyer's agent has simply followed this step, and advice to personally reaching out to the listing agent and presenting their offer, maybe their client could have gotten the home. Don't let this happen to you. I mean, can you imagine going out and spending all this time looking for a home only to have your agent drop the ball, leaving you sitting helpless on the sideline as your dream home is snatched out from under you? Don't think that this can't happen to you. because it does every single day to less savvy home buyers who choose to work with an agent that's incompetent. But that's only one reason. The other reason is because your agent should be your biggest advocate. Their job is to help you get the best possible price on the home, but most agents are just glorified paper pushers and taxi cab drivers, and they simply send your offer over to the listing agent without any regard for whether or not you're putting in the lowest possible bid while still remaining competitive. So when I contact the listing agent, I let them know my client's interested in the home they're representing, and I always ask questions. Quite often, the agent sings like a canary. This has happened to me plenty of times. Sometimes they flat out tell me what the seller is going to take for the home, or how fast they need to sell the home. I then get in touch with the client and we revise the offer accordingly. This simple step has saved my clients tens upon tens of thousands of dollars over the years, which again proves what I shared with you earlier. Always, always, always do your homework on the agent you're going to be working with. Do they put in this kind of extra effort in your behalf? If not, you could easily find yourself overpaying by thousands or even $10,000s of dollars. And who wants that? You might be thinking, sounds great, Lance, but what if I then lose the house to someone else because they outbid us? Don't worry, I've got you covered there too. 2 words, escalation clause. Here's how it works, and write this down. It's the holy grail when it comes to getting your dream home at the best price possible. And regardless of who you work with, make absolutely sure they're doing this for you if you're in a multiple bid situation. It's simple, yet so effective, it's shocking to me that many agents don't do this for their clients automatically, because a simple strategy alone could increase your chances of getting your dream home by 70 or even 80%. Here's how it works. And by the way, this is a real example of how this worked for one of my clients. There was a property for sale and it was priced at $150,000. It was in a great area with a great floor plan and it even had a pool. So it was underpriced at $150,000. And in all honesty, it probably should have been about $160,000 or $165,000. So I talked to my client and she told me her maximum price was $160,000. So I put an offer in for the listing price of $150,000, but I put an escalation clause that said they would automatically increase the bid by $1,000 over the highest offer, up to a maximum of $160,000. And guess what? They got the house. Now you might be wondering, how can we be sure the seller didn't just say they had a high offer? Well, it's simple. I include in the escalation clause that the seller must prove that they had another offer within 24 hours. Let me give you another example. I had a client who wanted a property that was listed for $430,000. Just like before, $430,000 was a very fair price for the home. It was a fantastic property. But we wrote an offer for $413,000. They had another offer for $415,000, so ours automatically escalated to $417,000. Then they went to $420,000. Ours automatically escalated to $422,000. Theirs went to $425,000. Ours went to $427,000. Theirs went to $429,000, and ours capped at $430,000, and my buyer got the home. Isn't that cool? Without the escalation clause, my client could have lost their dream home. Funny thing, the competing buyer's agent, Maria, is actually one of my friends that sat in the office right next to mine. I never told her the story because I didn't want her to get upset and know I beat her out. But I'm sharing this with you here in this webinar for the first time because I know how much it will increase your chances of getting the home you want at the best possible price. So I hope you put this to good use. Okay, so the third thing you need to do when competing with other offers is write a letter to the seller. I know this sounds a little odd, but everybody wants to hear how nice their home is, how smart their children are, how beautiful everything is. Stroke their ego a little bit. Tell them how you're looking forward to buying their home and how much you love it and how much you look forward to raising your family there. Just give them a really nice letter and let them know. Many sellers love knowing that the next homeowner will appreciate their home as much as they do. And when you're in a multiple offer situation, this simple step can easily make the difference between getting the home or losing it to someone else. I know, because I've done this with dozens of home buyers, and it's helped them get in the home on more than one occasion. The fourth strategy is to have your lender, assuming you're not paying cash, call the listing agent and let them know you're pre-approved for a mortgage. This is one of the ways that being pre-approved can become a huge advantage. If you can just show the listing agent and their seller that you're already pre-approved, they're going to be a lot more willing to work with you than someone who's just pre-qualified. Your lender could give the seller and their agent the peace of mind they need. It's the little things, my friends, that make all the difference here. And this is why working with a top agent that does things like this can be the difference of getting a home you love or missing out on it altogether. In fact, let me give you an example of another one of my clients. I remember years ago when I lived in Dallas, probably one of the best compliments I ever got was from Virginia and Greg. Virginia called me up and she said, "Hey Lance, this is Virginia. My husband and I are looking at selling our home in McKinney that you sold us several years ago." And I said, "Oh, Virginia, I'm so sorry, but I sent you something in the mail and an email as well that said I was going to be moving to Florida, and I can't help you. I'm actually leaving tomorrow, but I know a ton of great agents in the city. I've been here for 8 years, and I could go ahead and refer you a couple agents." And she said, "No, that's okay. I'll just go ahead and use my cousin." And I said, "Your cousin?" She said, "Yeah, my cousin's a real estate agent with the same company that you're with." And I said, "Well, I work for Keller Williams. She works for Keller Williams?" And she said, "Yeah, she's right here in McKinney." And I said, "Well, how long has she been in real estate?" And she said, "Well, she's been in real estate for probably about 5 years or so." And I said, "You mean to tell me I sold you a home a few years back and your cousin was in real estate?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, Virginia, I sold you a home, your cousin a home, your mother a home, your brother a home." I said, "I've sold almost your entire family tree a home, and your cousin's been in the business with the same company I'm with." And she said, "Well, Lance," she said, "in all honesty, business is business, and you're just better than she is. But now that you're moving, I guess we'll just go ahead and work with her." And I was, really quite shocked, and it was just such a kind thing to know people think of. And I have dozens of other examples like this, and it's all because I treat every one of my clients as if I'm the one buying the home for myself or selling the home for myself and my family. This is more than just a business to me, it's a passion, and that shows in the results my clients experience. Because think about this. If you were a real estate agent yourself and you were looking to buy a home, would you take the time to personally call the listing agent to make sure they receive the offer? Of course you would. Would you take the time to carefully craft an escalation clause to ensure you didn't get outbid unless it was above your maximum price? Of course you would, assuming you knew what one was. Would you do your homework to ensure the zoning laws wouldn't result in a commercial shopping mall or an apartment complex getting shoehorned in behind your home? Of course you would. And you should be just as confident that the agent you're working with will do the same for you, or you'll end up like so many other buyers who pay dearly for their unwillingness to follow these simple advice. So I know we covered a lot of ground on this webinar, and I hope you've been taking notes. So far we've covered how to obliterate the feeling of information overload that paralyzes many home buyers, why most home buyers are dead wrong about the right way to buy a home in today's modern world, and how they'll end up paralyzed with frustration as a result. The dirty little secret of the real estate industry that keeps big companies like you like a gerbil on a treadmill, constantly running in circles but without any real progress. The one critical thing you absolutely must do before you ever begin the home buying process. The biggest mistake that 99% of home buyers make, and how to avoid it like the plague. The 4 simple questions you must ask before you ever begin looking for your new home. The 3 critical elements to look for in your new home. If you get this right, You're going to smile every time you pull in your driveway. But you get this wrong, and you're going to feel the crushing weight of buyer's remorse. We talked about the case study, how a relocation buyer bought a home when she had less than 8 hours on a Saturday to do so from start to finish. The flashy gimmick shrewd sellers use to try to draw you in, and how to avoid falling victim. How to lower your bid on a home while increasing your chances of your offer getting accepted. Escalation clause, and so much more. Now I realize this can be a lot of information to remember. The home buying process is stressful enough even under the best circumstances. And while I've done everything I can here in this short event to give you as much confidence and peace of mind as I can, I still recognize that some of you here might feel a little like this girl when it comes to buying a home. You know, I laughed when I first saw this picture, but I really think it's how a lot of people feel as prospective home buyers. Sometimes you feel like you're trying to get a drink from a fire hose, and you're being bombarded with so much information that you need to know, so you just can't make the best possible decision. Or maybe you feel a lot like this lady here. You've tried to find a home that's perfect for you and your family, but despite your best efforts, you're still coming up short. Kind of like the case study of my buyers Donna and Kit that I shared with you earlier. They have spent 18 months looking for a home and never found anything, and they were completely frustrated after wasting countless evenings and weekends driving around. They just had nothing to show for it. Yet within a few short days of contacting me, I not only found a home that fit all of their criteria, but I leveraged my contacts and went to bat for them to get a builder to put a customized kitchen in with everything Kit had been dreaming about for years. And that's the kind of level of service that I provide my clients, because this is my passion, and it's proof of how I treat every one of my clients, as if I'm buying the home for my family. So you're sitting there right now in front of your computer, or you're on your tablet, and you know what I've shared with you in this short event will serve as an invaluable resource throughout your home buying journey. But you would love to have the peace of mind that comes from having me right there alongside you, personally guiding you every step of the way through the entire home buying experience. So let me ask you a question. Who here wants to leverage my years of experience and extensive relationships throughout the Tampa Bay area to zero in your dream home without any frustration, wasted times, feeling of information overload, all while enjoying the total confidence and peace of mind that comes from knowing I'll be right by your side every step of the way, even after the deal's done? As I've said time and time again throughout this short presentation, who you work with makes all the difference in the world, not only when it comes to your overall satisfaction with your new home, but also when it comes to your bottom line. And when you factor in that you don't pay a dime for my services, this should be one of the easiest and most profitable decisions you'll ever make. Because I'll be there to guide you through all the pitfalls and roadblocks that devastate so many prospective homebuyers, while keeping you firmly on the right track and focused on what matters most. Deciding on the perfect home where you and your loved ones can live and create priceless memories. So let me go to bat for you as you leverage not only my personal knowledge and experience, but the combined skill set of my entire team. And what's more, you'll have my extensive personal Rolodex at your complete disposal, which includes everyone from home builders to inspectors, contractors, movers, to mortgage brokers, attorneys, and everyone in between. There's literally no easier way to get instant confidence and peace of mind on your home buying journey than to leverage my services, knowing that I'll be there to guide you through every step of the way, whether you live in the Tampa Bay area or you're relocating from out of state. All the risk is on me, because remember, if I don't deliver for you, I don't make a dime. But I'm willing to take all the risks, because that's how confident I am that I could provide you with the kind of personal service and expertise guidance that you simply can't get from anyone else in the area. So I encourage you to take the next step by clicking the link that just appeared below this video. I'll take you to a short form where you can select the time to personally speak with me one-on-one. There's zero obligation here. Even if we decide not to work together, I can still guarantee that you'll end up after our call with more clarity and direction on your home buying journey than you had before. That's my commitment to you. So rest assured, by taking the next step right now and clicking on the link to receive a personal call from me, you're not going to be getting relentlessly hounded by me or my team. With just a quick glance, you could see that this webinar is being viewed by lots of prospective home buyers just like you, and my services are always in high demand. We're simply going to have a friendly one-on-one where we can get to know each other a little bit more before deciding whether or not it's a good fit for us to work together to secure your dream home in the fastest, easiest, and most direct way possible by putting the full might of my knowledge and experience to work for you. I know I've shared a wealth of information with you in this event, but by taking the next step and requesting a personal phone call with me, you can feel like a huge weight has been lifted off your shoulders. Because after we get a chance to chat and we decide it would be a good fit to work together, I'm going to be there with you throughout the entire home buying experience. From identifying what your dream home would be, to leveraging my extensive experience in relationships, to seamlessly finding the perfect home for you and your loved ones, and everything in between. Best of all, I'm going to go to bat for you to make sure you get the best price possible, all so you could ultimately enjoy the peace of mind that comes from working with a truly qualified, knowledgeable, and passionate agent that you can rely on to go the extra mile and be there for you every step of the way, even after the sale's done. After all, you're going to be making one of the biggest purchases of your life, and I want to provide you with every possible advantage I can so you can have the confidence that comes from knowing that one of the biggest purchases of your life is also one of the best purchases of your life. So go ahead and click on the link now and choose a time that works best for you. The appointments I have available are on first come, first served basis, and I'd hate to see you miss the window of opportunity that's available for you right now to expertly streamline your entire home buying process. Like I said, there's zero obligation, and I'm very picky about who I work with, just like you should be. And even if we decide that it wouldn't be a good fit to work together, I could still guarantee by the end of the call you'll have even more confidence and peace of mind about your home buying journey than you had before you picked up the phone. So that means you have nothing to lose and everything to gain by clicking the link below. But still, I understand you feel hesitation toward even the most genuine and profitable offers like this one you have right now. Most of the hesitation probably deals with some common myths that many home buyers have about working with an agent. So to give you total peace of mind about taking the next step, let me talk about a few of those real quick. Probably the most common thought is that you'd be better off by searching for a home on your own because you believe that by not enlisting the services of an agent, you'll get a better deal on the home, since the seller will not have to cover any additional commissions. Nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, let me tell you a quick story about one of my clients that really illustrates this. When I was brand new in the business, I got a call from a gentleman, David Weidenfeller, nicest guy in the world. He called up and he said he was looking for a new home. I said, great, tell me a little bit about what you're looking for. So we talked for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then I asked him if he'd like to come into the office and talk a little bit more. And he said, well, he wanted to go directly through the builder because he felt if he did, he would get a better deal. And I said, well, that just isn't the case. That isn't how builders, especially these national builders, work. I said, but if you think you could get a better deal, please feel free to do what you think you need to do that's best for you. I said, but would you mind if I just tell you why you won't get a better deal? And he said, no, not a problem. So I said, okay, take what I say with a grain of salt. I said, but let's say you go into the builder, everything's going fine, and then all of a sudden you have a problem. So you have a problem and you're not working with a real estate agent, and then 4 other people, buyers, have problems and they're all working with a realtor. Who's the last person on the totem pole? And he said, well, probably me. And I said, well, you're right. I said, so 2 of those problems get resolved. Maybe 2 more people come up with problems and they're working with a realtor. Who do you think the last person on the totem pole is? And he said, well, and I said, well, that's right, you. I said, because this isn't Baskin Robbins. This isn't first come, first serve. This is business. I said, the builder knows over the next year or maybe 5 years that this is going to be the only home you're going to buy. Would you agree with that? And he said, yes. And I said, so even maybe over the next 10 years, do you think you're going to buy another home through the builder, or any of your family members, any of your friends, coworkers that you recommend? And he said, no, probably this is it. And I said, well, I would agree with you, and the builder already knows that as well. I said, but maybe over the next year, 5, 10 years, I might sell 5 homes. I might sell 35 homes. I said, do you think the builder knows this? And he said, well, yes. And I said, well, see, 70 to 80% of all builder business is run through the real estate community. So they're not going to give a home buyer a better deal than they would give a real estate agent. Does that make sense? And he said, yes. We continued to talk, and I said, well, let me explain how builders actually work. I said, if a builder's fiscal year end is December 31st, usually around the end of October, the end of November, builders start to put together their budget, their projections for the following year. And in that, they're going to have their, of course, the P&Ls. It's going to have all the communities that they're in right now, all the communities that they're going in next year, the projections next year, how many sales they're going to make, what their profit margin is, what their advertising budget is, what their marketing budget is, whether it's the TV, the radio, everything's going to be in there. How much they're going to pay real estate agents, how much they're going to pay their sales reps, everything's going to be in there. So if they're selling 1,000, 5,000 homes a year, you're not going to walk in and say, hey, if I don't use a real estate agent, can you cut me a better deal? It's sort of like saying, well, if I don't use your representative, can you give me a better deal? Does that make sense? And he said yes. So he went out to the builder, and if I told you who the builder was, you would absolutely know who they are because they're a huge national builder. So he went out, and of course they said, no, you can't. So we're not going to cut you a better deal. So he called me up the next day. Everything's going great. And then about 4 months into it, he calls me up. He said, well, I have good news and bad news. He said, the good news is they're done bricking my home. The bad news is they bricked it the wrong color. And I said, did you call Rachel? And he said, yeah, she told me to come in and get my earnest money. And I said, okay. So I called her up and I said, hey, Rachel, what's going on with Dave's home? Let's talk about this. She said, well, here's the thing, Lance. She said, we're not going to rip down all the brick. She said, we're just not going to do that. It's too costly. He could come in, get his earnest money. He could either go with another builder or he could just go ahead and pick another lot and we'll start building. And I said, well, the prices have already gone up $8,000 and he wanted that lot. Give me your supervisor's name and number. So I talked to the sales manager. To make a long story short, they re-bricked the home. 2 weeks later, they had another issue with the electrical. They told him the same thing, come get your earnest money. I called the sales manager. We got it resolved. They fixed the electrical issue. See, the thing with builders, and you have to understand, these sales reps are really, really nice people. And they're always going to be as nice as possible. But when things start to go wrong, you have to remember their bread is buttered from their employer, the builder. So one of the things for agents and people who have been in this business for a while that have sold dozens, if not hundreds of new homes, they know the builder's favorite word is no, because most people will take it. And even if the person really gets mad, they're not going to tell anybody that's going to buy their product anyhow. So the builder really doesn't care too much what a buyer has to say. Now, I know that sounds a little harsh, but that's just reality and that's just business. So the other thing I would say, if you are looking at buying a home, definitely use a real estate agent, but use a real estate agent that's very familiar and understands the new construction. A lot of times real estate agents, like in Dave's situation, they'll approach the sales manager completely wrong and end up ticking off the sales manager, then nothing will get done. So make sure you choose wise. And I have a great video for buying new homes on my website, tampa2enjoy.com. It's very long. It's about 32 minutes, but it will walk you through the entire process, no matter where you are, from A to Z, and answer about every question you have or every question you could have when it comes to buying a new home. And if you are buying a new home, I would love to go to bat for you, just like I did David and dozens of other people that have had problems with builders as well. Simply click the link below and let me know what time works best for you. We'll hop on a call, see if we get along and everything works for both of us. If it does, we'll set up a time to meet. Now, another common myth that applies to those of you in this event is the people who might be relocating and going through a relocation company. A lot of times these relocation companies say you must work with the specific agent in the area that's assigned for you. And that's completely inaccurate. I've done hundreds and hundreds of relocations, corporate relocations, and really all your employer cares about is that you're taken care of. As long as the real estate agent agrees to work with the relocation company, whoever that is, they'll work with anybody. I'll give you another example. A few years ago, David and Christy Murphy came to me, and they called me up on a listing I had in New Tampa. And I met them out there, and they said, you know, Lance, we would just love to work with you, but our relocation company told me that we had to use the assigned agent. I said, that's absolutely not true. Give me your relocation director's name and number. I'll call them. I'll get this squared away with them. And they said, you could do that? And I said, don't worry about it. So I picked up the phone, called the relocation director. He said, that's fine. Go ahead and work with them. I did. They were looking around for 2 weeks with this other agent in New Tampa at homes that they didn't even like. I started working with them, sat down with them, asked them a lot of questions. We talked. 2 days later, they ended up finding their perfect home in West Chase. Matter of fact, when we started talking about West Chase, David said, you know, Lance, when you brought up West Chase, we never even heard of that area. The agent never even told us about the area. So if you're working with the corporate relocation company, believe me, you could work with whoever you want to work with. So click on the link below and pick a date and time that works best for you, and we can discuss your unique situation in more detail. Another common myth is thinking it would be easier to find a home on your own. This line of thinking is most common with buyers whom have never truly worked with a qualified and experienced agent. And I can't really blame you, since until now you probably thought about real estate agents as nothing more than a glorified taxi driver, which most are, shuttling you from home to home with really no guidance or any way to really streamline or educate you on the process. But when you click the link below now and choose a date and time that works best for you for us to chat in private, you'll quickly see that working with someone who can provide you with in-the-trenches experience that I can, you'll agree that there's simply no better way to buy a home than working with myself and my team. And finally, another common myth I hear from home buyers is the idea by working directly with the listing agent will save you money. I've never really understood this because the listing agents are already in a legally binding contract with the seller. So if you call them up, they can't tell you, oh, the seller's going to take this or the seller might take that. They have to be completely neutral on everything. But when you have me in your corner, I know the right questions to ask to gain unprecedented insight into the mindset of the seller, allowing us to work together to confidently alter your bid to potentially save you thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars on your home without jeopardizing your chances of being the winning bidder. So I hope you make the smart decision and click on the link below to set up a day and time for us to talk. But regardless of whatever you decide, I want you to know that I'm truly excited for you and what lies ahead. Buying a home is such an incredible, rewarding, and exciting experience. And by putting the strategies I've shared with you on this event to action, you can rest assured that your journey will be much more streamlined and profitable no matter which direction you go. And don't forget, please utilize all the incredible resources I put for your disposal on my website, Tampa to Enjoy. It's absolutely free. And I've put in an absolute love of labor into my site to make sure it's a gold mine for you and make sure that your home buying process is much easier. I personally want to thank everybody for being here. And for all of you that have already clicked on the link to request a one-on-one call with me, I want you to know that I'm really excited to get to know you more. I can't wait to share some additional strategies with you that we just ran out of time to discuss on this event. And regardless of whether we decide to work together to find a dream home, you have my commitment to provide you with every resource I can to make your home buying experience one of the most fun, memorable, and profitable experiences of your life. By the way, I'm going to shoot you an email with the download link to the Home Buying Tips and Advice ebook that I promised you earlier. Thanks again for being here, and please enjoy the rest of your day. I look forward to hearing about all your home buying success stories. Take care.